Welcome to TV African News. Thank you so much for joining us and always being part of us. My name is Nahabika Jura, and in the headlines. Opposition members of parliament march out of parliament in protest against continued injustice, torture of citizens. Government issues guidelines for pastoralists in northern Uganda. Uganda Cancer Institute takes action to close care gap. In our sports today, Egypt ends Cameroon's race for 6th title, beat hosts in penalties. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We start with one of our top stories. Now, a section of members of the opposition in Parliament have marched out of plenary, polarizing House business on Thursday afternoon. Now, the members, led by the leader of opposition in Parliament, Mathias Mpuuga, marched out in protest of the alleged injustice and torture of Ugandan citizens. While addressing the media, Mpuuga confirmed that they have excused themselves in protest against the continued illegal arrests, torture and killings across the country. Mpuuga said that in light of yesterday, the 3rd of February 2021, they had it on record that as members of parliament, independents of different parties, including a few courageous ones in the ruling party, walked out of parliament as a protest for the continued injustice in this country that includes several killings and uncounted for citizens, the torture of citizens that all of them have been able to see and witness, which the state actors are unable to explain. The protest comes against the heels of viral video in which government critic Kakwenza Ruchirabashaija stripped to showcase marks of alleged torture that he was apparently exposed to while in detention recently. Following his remand on charges of offensive communication, Buganda Road Chief Magistrate Dr. Douglas Singiza recently directed prisons authorities to carry out a medical examination to ascertain Kakwenza's health status. In the report released on January 28, 2022 by Dr. James Chisambu, it was indicated that indeed the novelist bore torture marks all over his body. The report says that the medical examination found the 33-year-old male prisoner remanded at Chitalia Minmax prison on January 11th with complaints of healing scars of wounds sustained before being remanded to prison. According to the report, whereas Kakwenza is currently in good health condition, he is on medication to help the torture wounds heal. Away from that, government has said anyone moving livestock in parts of northern and eastern Uganda must have a permit issued by the District of Origin's veterinary officer.
As government deals with the issue of herdsmen who have invaded northern Uganda, it has issued guidelines that will guide against the spread of diseases and conflicts in parts of north and eastern Uganda. While addressing journalists at the Government Media Center in Kampala, the State Minister for Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Honorable Bright Ramirama, said the temporary guidelines for pastoralists will prevent the spread of diseases and stop illegal movement of animals in the northern and eastern parts of Uganda. He said the guidelines will apply with effect from 1st Feb to 31st March 2022.
During the course of this exercise, the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries has put measures to ensure that during this exercise, the people of the affected areas should continue to breed and trade in livestock, cattle, and live a normal life without compromising or undermining the exercise. The guidelines will be applied from 1st February to 31st March, and after that,
among the guidelines include herdsmen moving livestock must obtain permits or letters from the district officers, and no livestock shall be offloaded while reaching the final destination specified on the movement permits.
the number of livestock permits to move, number of livestock written on the permit must be in number, in the number received. No livestock shall be offloaded before reaching the final destination specified on the movement permit, or no animal shall be loaded on the way. No animal shall be added or removed on the way during the transit.
In November 2021, Herdsmen in northern Uganda had been issued a 2-month deadline to leave the Acholi sub-region after numerous complaints by locals that were causing conflict and land dispute. Nalgo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Moving on, in our top stories, Uganda joins the rest of the world to commemorate the World Cancer Day in commitment to providing greater access to caring for people and closing the gap in cancer through reaching out to the population. More details in this report.
In a statement from the Uganda Cancer Institute Public Relations Officer Christine Namlindwa, the day is celebrated upon the theme Closing the Care Gap in the new 3 years campaign for World Cancer Day, one of the most important health awareness days this year, led by the Union for International Cancer Control, to which the Uganda Cancer Institute registers to promote greater equity in healthcare provision for the general population. This procedure exposes significant barriers related to socio-economic factors that prevent a number of people from accessing life-saving prevention services, diagnostic, treatment, and care, all of which are barriers to cultural context, physical locations, income, or discrimination based on age, gender, or disability, leading to high risks of developing or surviving cancer. The Uganda Cancer Institute is fast-tracking the National Cancer Control Plan, increasing the research, treatment, and diagnostic with funding from the Ugandan government, enabling it to expand its services to all parts of the country. This day acts as a global union under which the world comes together to raise the profile of cancer in a positive way. Kachanchu Mtabazi reporting for TV Africa.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. We'll take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back for the break. As you're watching TV Africa, the right to know. In international news today, the head of Libya's Human Rights Commission on Wednesday said he rejected the idea of renewing migration deal between the country and Italy. Now, Amnesty International criticized Italy for plans to extend the agreement for another 3 years without any changes to its text. Take a look at this story.
In a report issued earlier this week, Amnesty said the Italian government was set to approve the continuance of the agreement on Wednesday. Both parties reached an agreement in 2017, signing a memorandum of understanding to set up cooperation and to fight migrant trafficking from Libyan shores. The deal was renewed for a further 3 years, starting from February 2, 2020, according to Ahmed Hamza, chairman of the Libyan National Commission for Human Rights. Hamza said that his organization has repeatedly called for authorities to reconsider the agreement. Hamza said he felt the agreement fails to take into account the exceptional and security conditions that migrants were going through in Libya. He also criticized European Union countries, which he said were evading their legal, moral, and humanitarian responsibilities in dealing with migrants destined for Europe. On Wednesday, the European Union said it hoped to deliver more vessels to the Libyan Coast Guard before the summer, when irregular sea crossings are expected to increase.
Away from that, the Statistics Agency in South Africa on Wednesday said that the country launched its once-in-a-decade population census to collect data that will help government's policy formulation and planning. The census started with an army of enumerators counting the homeless people in hospitals, prisons, and communal living quarters known as hostels, among other places. People departing the country via airports or land borders just before midnight Thursday were also counted. It will be the fourth population count conducted in post-apartheid South Africa. Initially scheduled for October last year, it was postponed due to disruptions caused by the coronavirus pandemic. For the first time, respondents have the option to furnish their details online. In 2016, South Africa's population stood at 55.7 million, according to official figures. Collected data will update demographic information as well as mortality and fertility rates and migration trends. South Africa, the most industrialized economy on the continent, is a magnet for migrants from poorer countries. At the last count in 2011, the Statistics Agency counted more than 2.2 million migrants living within its borders. Other data to be gathered during the census include education and income levels and food security. Moving on, members of the Economic Community of West African States met in Accra on Thursday to discuss the next steps of the bloc following the coup in Burkina Faso last month and the situation in Mali and Guinea, where the militaries also seized power. We have the details.
While welcoming delegates during the opening ceremony, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, ECOWAS chairman and president of Ghana, said that the summit will focus on the emerging threats in their region that stem from the military interference in Mali and its contagious influence in Guinea and Burkina Faso. The head of the group welcomed the fact that the attempt to remove Umaru Sissoco Embalo, president of Guinea-Bissau, failed earlier this week, but called on blocs to work together to find a solution that he called a dangerous trend before it devastates the whole region. In the last 18 months, soldiers have grabbed power in Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso. Despite international pressure for a return to constitutional rule, none of the military rulers have yet to organize new elections. The new wave of coups kicked off in Mali in 2020, followed by another in Guinea the following year and then Burkina Faso last month. Just a week later, gunmen also tried to overthrow the president of Guinea-Bissau in a machine gun attack that lasted hours but failed. There have been nearly 100 in West Africa since 1946, but they had dropped off over the past decade. The regional body known as ECOWAS is grappling with how to bring about a return to democracy in 3 of its 15 member states, where juntas have seized power.
Away from that, Guinea-Bissau's President Umaru Embalo has visited the scene of the attack on him in the attempted coup that left 11 people dead and called on people to stop the provocation and trust the investigation committee and the justice system.
The army has launched a vast operation, including at the headquarters of the government, according to a military official, to find the commanders and protagonists of the coup attempt. Heavily armed men on Tuesday afternoon surrounded government buildings in the capital Bissau, where Embalo and his prime minister were believed to be attending a cabinet meeting. Embalo, 49, later told the reporters he had been unharmed during a 5-hour gun battle, which he described as a plot to wipe out the government in Guinea-Bissau, one of Africa's most unstable countries. On Wednesday, life was slowly returning to streets of Bissau as shops and banks reopened, according to AFP correspondents. Soldiers were patrolling the streets, however, and also blocked access to the Palace of Government complex where the attack took place. Noelo Barbosa, a 27-year-old resident of the capital, said the failed coup was the last thing his country needed. The military sources said a commission of inquiry had launched a vast dragnet, adding that military intelligence agents were gathering information at government headquarters. At a news conference on Tuesday, Embalo said that assailants had tried to kill the president of the republic and the entire cabinet.
Well, thank you so much, reporter. We'll take a quick break. We shall come back with business news. Welcome back from the break. You're watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, policy experts on budgetary issues have urged the government to delay the rollout and implementation of the ruling party's alleviation program, parish development model, reasoning that the country is not ready.
As they presented their views on the 2022-2023 National Budget Framework paper before the Parliamentary Committee budget on Friday afternoon, officials from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group insisted the program can be executed once the requisite structure has been implemented. CS BAC Executive Director Mr. Julius Mukunda warned that government risks losing the money budgeted for the program if the funds are released for implementation without erecting the requisite structures. Mr. Mkunda therefore asked Parliament to evoke its powers to compel government to stay the release of the funds meant to bankroll the program until the clearly defined requisite structures and accountability systems are erected to monitor its implementation. The Parish Development Model is the latest poverty alleviation program designed by the National Resistance Movement and will be implemented throughout the current term. A total of 200 billion shillings was approved by Parliament for the program in the current financial year 2021-2022.
In our health news today, more than 100,000 children in malaria endemic Western Kenya have received the new vaccine against the disease, which kills 260,000 children under 5 every year in sub-Saharan Africa. We have the details.
A pilot program has been rolling out the groundbreaking drug, which was 30 years in the making in Kenya, Ghana and Malawi since 2019. It was approved for broad use for children in sub-Saharan Africa and the other at-risk regions by World Health Organization in October last year. Health clinics in Western Kenya, where pediatric wards full of children sickened by malaria are not uncommon, are still starting to see results as admissions for malaria are falling as this the severity of symptoms. Elusa Surawa, head nurse for malaria at Akala Health Center in Siaya County, said that since they started administering the malaria vaccine in September 2019, they have seen a reduction of the cases of malaria. Dr. Simon Kariuki, Chief Research Officer at the Kenya Medical Research Institute and a leading expert on malaria, said the vaccine was a game changer. He said that they showed that this vaccine is safe and can be given to young African children who bear the higher burden of malaria. He said that pilot trials had shown the vaccine could reduce malaria incidents in young children in these areas by almost 40%. The World Health Organization has recommended that the vaccine be administered in a 4-dose regimen for children from 5 months of age in areas with moderate to high transmission of malaria.
In our sports news today, a night of devastation and shattered hopes in Cameroon after the Pharaohs of Egypt booked their place for the final match of the AFCON 2021 competition at the expense of hosts Cameroon. Now, Egypt beat Cameroon 3-1 in penalties in what was a tension-soaked match.
3 Cameroonian players missed their spot kicks, making the penalty session far easy from the difficult 120 goalless minutes of football. Indeed, the game after 90 minutes had remained barren, with both teams missing several chances to get ahead. 30 minutes of extra time still could not separate the teams. The result left Cameroonian fans across the country and around the world shattered. There are no teams that have won the Total Energies African Cup of Nations title than Cameroon and Egypt. Between them, they lifted the holy grail of African football 12 times, 5 the Indomitable Lions and 7 for the Pharaohs. On Sunday, the Pharaohs would attempting an 8th title when they face Sadio Mane's Teranga Lions of Senegal. For Senegal, this gives yet another chance for them to lift their first AFCON trophy. But some would see the contest more as a test of the best player in Africa between 2 major players for Liverpool, Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah. Cameroon, on the other hand, would have the 3rd place to contest for against Burkina Faso on Saturday.
Well, thank you so much, reporter, and it is at this particular time that I thank you for being part of us and being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.